Hey, Brody, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I dove deep into your catalog to brush up for today, and I've been listening to quite a bit. And I've only heard the three singles off of the new self titled album, of course, and they're great, but they're awfully diversive. So, my question is to start it off about this new killer kick ass album, why do the sounds just sound so different than your previous releases? Is the evolution come off your sounds that you listen to, or is it the rest of the band in a collaborative process?
Yeah, I mean, we all listen to a lot of, different stuff. Not just stuff in the metal realm either, I mean, we all listen to a lot of stuff outside of the genre. And yeah, I mean, I think all of our records, are very different from each other. And I think that has a lot to do with our like kind of individual influences. And yeah, we're just kind of like we get bored easily, and we just kind of want to try different stuff, like even within the context of like one song sometimes, it might go through a couple different changes within each track. But yeah, I mean, we brought in Andy Thomas, who's a new member of the band. He's one of the clean vocalists in the band, and he was kind of like a new tool in our toolbox to utilize, and he really brought kind of like a new kind of sound to this album that we haven't had before. And yeah, and I think that the singles are all pretty different, but we kind of just wanted to like show off like different corners of the album, and just kind of try to cover our bases just generally with like what people are getting into this time around.
I think like I was introduced to your band and started listening to you guys about 2018 when Owls, where the Owls Know My Name first dropped, and I loved it. It was the first time I've ever experienced like a jazz influence almost with the sax, of course, and I thought that that was a really bold risk that you took, and I like bands that take gambles because if you're gonna just keep putting out the same shit, what's the point of listening?
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll be honest though, the Owls grabbed me so much that I call it Queensryche syndrome. That like you could have 100 albums and I'm going to Operation Mindcrime every time.
Hmm.
But then the work came out and it was like, holy shit, this is a completely different sound. It's not quite as heavy when you base it off like low end or guitar. And it has that more of an artistic negative space, which gives it even more heaviness. And it seems like you've mirrored the two, the work and Where Owls Know My Name, and you took like the best parts of both and blended them in together. It's almost like a compilation of greatness. So I really welcome and appreciate, the effort. It's great.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, like I think we looked back at like all of our records this time around. The four full lengths that we have out. And kind of like looked at like what we felt like were like the highest moments, like the best moments on each record, like where we feel like the moments that really stood out on each album to us, and kind of just like examined it and tried to figure out like, hey, like what are our strengths as a band, like what are our weaknesses, and like really focusing on the strengths, particularly on like the last two records, Where Owls Know My Name and The Work, and just kind of focusing on the strengths that we have as a band, and like really leaning into those this time around, and like kind of really hyper focusing on the stuff that we're like really good at, and like just trying to make it better this time around. So yeah, I think that to describe this album as a marriage of the last two records, but kind of with like a new lens over it, is like a pretty fair comparison. I
And
would
I
agree.
think and I think when you mentioned, I'm sorry, I have a terrible memory from a car accident, but I'm sorry, with the new member that you brought in, Tim?
Andy.
Andy, I'm sorry, I'm terrible
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah. All
But
good.
Andy, his vocals on these three songs, I absolutely hate clean vocals. Like I thrash and death, I love black and paint peeling caustics. But his tone of voice is just really well, and it's very contrasting to the heaviness of your music. And it really adds like a lot more texture. It seems as the more the releases come out with you guys, the more texture and layers there are to unpack, which makes this such a dynamic listen. I really enjoyed these three songs, and I can't wait to see what the rest is bringing.
Oh yeah, man. Good to hear.
Yeah. And most surprising part is like, and I feel the same way about August Burns Red. I live on the other side of the state from you guys. I'm down in Pittsburgh.
Oh
And
hell yeah.
so like I've driven all over the state in my travels, and like I've always associated Reading, PA as this conservative, like farm religious community. So to have such heaviness come from like I think August Burns Red's out of Lancaster, I believe.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
like, for those two communities that are kind of very similar, you guys have a really diverse sound coming from there. Like
Mhm.
what drives that influence for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Lancaster is like definitely. I mean, that's like there's like big like Amish population there, you know. So like there definitely is like kind of like the religious kind of conservative thing in that area. Reading to a lesser extent, but like yeah, like I definitely know what you're saying, and I don't know, maybe like there's just like not really a whole lot to do around here. So like maybe yeah, us and August Burns Red and you know Black Crown Initiate, you know, that's Andy's other band, and there have been a lot of other bands. Like I remember, like A Life Once Lost was like from the area, and you know, you have like Outer Heaven, who they're on Relapse, but their guitar player John was actually the original member of our band. So there's just like a lot of there's a lot of cool bands from the area, and I don't know, I guess it probably has to do with just like there's just like not. There wasn't a whole lot to do around here, you know, just, go to shows and just like try to like write cool songs that your friends could like, headbang to at shows really. I mean, there's not like a big city center here, there's not a whole lot to do in that sense. And, it's just like a industrial and farming area really. So yeah, I guess just getting good at playing music was like the only option for a lot of people. So yeah, you have a couple of like pretty cool bands that have come out of this area for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up some of them. I wrote them down. I haven't checked out Outer Heaven yet. For some
Oh,
reason.
they're sick, man. They're like they're like Morbid Angel, like old Morbid Angel, like Cannibal Corpse, like
I just
that.
saw them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, the Meshuggah tour.
Yeah, yeah. On
Yeah,
Tuesday I saw them.
okay, yeah. I wanted to go to the Maryland show, but I ended up having to get up super early the next morning, so I decided I probably shouldn't. But yeah, that would have been cool. That tour looked like it was pretty sick.
It was, and to be honest, like I'm not a Meshuggah fan. I know, like I think I've seen some things where you said like the band's into them, but Meshuggah is too complicated of a sound for me. Like too
Mhm.
much polyrhythms, and Thomas Hockey is just way too good. Like stop rubbing it in. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so like I go ahead.
No, they're great. I mean, and that live show, the laser show, I've seen some of the videos. It looks insane.
And I was gonna say, like, I even looked at the guy I was with at the show and was like, their music's too complicated for me, but this is one of the best shows I think I've ever seen. And
Hmm.
oddly enough, as soon as I hang up with you, I got to go get cleaned up. I'm gonna go interview the couple that got married. I don't know if you saw, they got
Oh,
married.
that Cannibal Corpse marriage couple. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so they
pretty cool.
live like only like 15 minutes, 20 minutes from me. So I'm gonna shoot over there and catch up with them and see how that came about.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I did see that in the on the news cycle this week. Pretty wild.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like something different. So
Yeah, very different for sure.
So circling back to Reading, like I've always wanted to ask, since the owls know my name and the cover art you guys have. Now I know you don't draw; it's Dan Seagrave who does your artwork, but there's a lot of like nature
Hmm.
influences in it, whether it be the rivers of Nile, the artwork, owls. Like, do you guys draw a lot of inspiration from like nature or it just
Uh,
kind of worked out that way?
I don't know. I think that like Dan Seagrave, I mean, his like artwork just over the years has been very like landscape oriented, like pretty much any Dan Seagrave painting you look at, like it's some kind of like vast, like, almost alien looking landscape. I mean, there's definitely like a lot of references to nature, like in the history of our band. But I mean, Adam, our vocalist, I mean, he writes all of the lyrics, and like he just kind of draws influence from like a lot of like of life experience, I think, and sometimes that could be from nature, sometimes it could be from social interactions, or like stuff that's going on in his personal life with his family, or any of that kind of stuff. So I mean, I wouldn't say we're like specifically like a nature band or anything like that, but it has definitely popped up a lot throughout the years. So I understand why you might ask that.
Yeah. I've always, like, lately, maybe like the last year, I started this a year ago, and I'm trying to, grow myself. And so I've really, yesterday when I immersed myself in the catalog, I was working outside, and I really felt like it resonated really well listening to your stuff while working in nature, just felt
Yeah.
very harmonious and relaxing, actually.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I definitely, I spent a lot of time, I write like a lot of the music, not the lyrics, but the instrumental stuff. I've definitely spent a lot of time in the outdoors, gone hiking a lot, gone camping a lot, like definitely like definitely outside a lot, so like I'm sure that like that kind of stuff has like worked its way into the music, whether it's just like something you can stare at the clouds and zone out to, or dig a dig a ditch, to
Yeah.
like lay some pipes or something, I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe I'm reaching there, but yeah, for
No, I
sure.
think it works well, and I think like art's subjective, so like the meaning that you might have versus your singer versus your drummer. And it just resonated really well with me, and I really liked it. And if you would look at it on paper, like all the things like saxophones or like atmospherics that you guys are progressing as your sound evolves, if I in clean singing, if I looked on paper, I'd be like, this is definitely not for me. Like I'm passing. But like
Hmm.
the more I listen to your sound, it's almost like your sound forces people to evolve with the band. And I
Mm.
think the coolest part is like your sound now has evolved to sound completely different than like Conscious Seed of Life or of
Hmm.
Light. And it's just really cool to see the growth, not only in that, but like the growth of like the sound that I hear too in my ears. And I think
Yeah.
that was a really cool fucking progression.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think a lot of the progression that's happened with the band has really just like been all of us, like, just like growing older, and just like, learning new things, in our personal lives, and, just getting into different kinds of music and wanting to incorporate that into like our sound. And like, yeah, because like when we first started off, we were like pretty like hard line, like death metal band, and yeah, we just like we get like I said previously, we get bored easily, so we just wanted to we just, as we went along over the last 15 years or whatever, like we just want to try new stuff. And we've all grown as people and as musicians, so we want to make that part of our story. So I think in a lot of respects, the album, people who have listened to us throughout the years have kind of been like, you know growing up with us in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's definitely been a journey though.
I think the thing for me is like my father was a record collector. So he used to collect 45s, but it was mostly like blues and doo-wop. And so
Mhm.
then that way like I kind of got into those sounds. And I think that's maybe where the sax pulled me in.
Mm.
I was so fucking stoked because I see the banner behind you. I was so fucking stoked you guys brought the sax out on tour with you for Chaos and Carnage.
Oh yeah.
Me and a couple buddies went to the Pittsburgh show last year, and I was like, man, they better fucking bring them. Like, I'll be so bummed. And as soon as I saw them, I was like, fuck yeah. So
Mhm.
it was
Yeah,
fucking,
man. Patrick, who plays saxophone for us, is he's awesome. He's been out with us on pretty much every tour for the last couple of years. So yeah, we like to to get him out with us as much as we can, just because, we know people like it, and like it's definitely something different. You go to a death metal show, you don't really expect to see a guy come out with a saxophone, so it's always funny when people don't know about that and they see us and then they see that and they're just like, what. So yeah, man, Pat's awesome. And was that show at Mr. Smalls or
Preserving Underground?
Preserving Underground? Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that was a cool show. That's a cool venue. We've played both the main room and then the basement room. So it's like a pretty legendary, like hardcore venue too, right? Like they have like a museum in the basement and stuff.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they just opened their second record shop down the street from the main record shop that's in the venue is like caters to like punk, hardcore, and metal. And then the one down the street, I think, carries all the other genres like jazz and stuff. But
Yeah.
the owner's a young kid. He's in a metal band too. His name's AJ. Well, he's my age. I guess 40s isn't young kids anymore. But uh, yeah, he still's putting on killer shows. But my only complaint about his venue is, and I love AJ to death, but he's bringing in like a fucking legendary band every night of the week. And like,
Oh yeah.
I got kids. I can't go to a show 7 nights a week. So
Right.
you got to pick and choose like which acts you get to see. And like, I'd love to support more, but I can't afford
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You kind of get option paralysis. You gotta, pick one. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it was cool. That was a cool tour, Chaos and Carnage, and we always like having Pat out with us playing sax live. It's always a good time.
It makes a big difference too, seeing him live and sounding live versus like plugging in a backing track of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've done it both ways, and like it's definitely like noticeably different reactions when the real thing is there. So we've kind of like decided that like we're just gonna try to bring him out from now on, because it's just a totally different thing, with real sax live.
Yeah. Huge difference, man. It sounds so good.
Thanks, man. I'm glad to dig it.
So after this record that drops on May 30th, the self-titled, that's fucking only heard 3 songs, but it's badass so far. Are you guys going to be doing a tour to support? Because I already got people asking me, like, make sure you ask them about a tour.
Hmm. Yeah. We're gonna be doing a North American tour in May and June. The first show is May 22nd, I think. It's us. We're headlining, and then a band called Holy Fawn, and then Inner Arma and Glacial Tomb. So it's a pretty diverse tour package. But yeah, we're going to be across North America this May and June promoting the new record, and the record will drop like a week into the tour. So we're going to be playing a bunch of new stuff, and yeah, it should be a pretty sweet tour, man.
I hope you swing through Pittsburgh on this one. And
I can't
hope
remember if we are or not. I feel like we are, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
I'll drive. I got nothing to do.
Hell
But
yeah.
if you guys come though, you got to bring vinyl too, because at least save me a copy and tell me what I owe you.
Well, we'll definitely have vinyl with us on this one for sure. We actually, it's on its way right now, so we'll definitely have it.
So when you guys are like write in the writing process for the record, do you guys write as an entire record, or do you guys write as like individual songs? Because it feels like a fucking old school record, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we like on this record. I mean, all the songs were written like within like a 1 year period, I would say. But yeah, we usually go song by song. And then like, when we have a bunch of songs that we feel good about, we'll pick like the best ones and then, go through and refine them until we think they're as good as they can possibly be. And then we'll put them on a record. But yeah, like I'll usually, I write like most of the music. Andy, our other guitar player, he helps out with the stuff as well. And then Adam, our vocalist, writes all the lyrics. But when we put everything together, it's kind of like a collaborative thing. Everybody has input and we do it all together, sit in the studio and work stuff out and, give each other constructive criticism. And yeah, so we're still definitely functioning as a classic kind of band in that regard.
Big difference in listening. Like you hear a lot of the younger bands just writing singles and releasing them, but I always like I would have been happier if you would have gave me the seventh song instead of the eighth, because I like to see how songs are bookended. So it went
Uh,
like your singles went five, six, eight, and I was like, fuck, if they would just give me seven two, you know?
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we just kind of picked we kind of just picked the songs we thought would like I said, like just show different, maybe the different sides of the record. You have like the House of Light, which is like big epic chorus and like, more technical, like in classic kind of like heavy stuff that we've done, but still proggy with the sax and everything. And then American Death is like more of like a straightforward like banger.
Yeah.
And then Water in Time is almost like a ballad kind of, so it's just kind of just showing off the different corners of the album, I guess.
Now I was looking at the titles for the other tracks. Is this a concept album? Like it flows, or it just happened to like read that way in the titles?
Um, it's like, some of our previous albums have been more like hardline concepts, like really definitive through lines on each record. This record is like, I wouldn't call it like a classic concept album, but like it does have like kind of overarching themes. The title Rivers of Nile is kind of like, you know, this it's just kind of like a metaphor for like kind of like the darkness in life that can like pull you in, and like you can kind of just get stuck in. Some people get stuck there for their whole lives, just like falling into like depression or paranoia or addiction or negativity, nihilism, like all that, just all the bad things that you can fall for so easily in life. All that can kind of fall under this Rivers of Nile title that, like, it's something that you want to kind of try to stay out of, really. You want to stay out of the Rivers of Nile. And, each song kind of like discusses like a different topic, Despair Church with like kind of religious themes, and like American Death with political themes, and Water in Time with, kind of like relationships, kind of issues, and like, the title track or like The Logical End is like a song that's kind of like, to me at least, kind of like has almost like discusses like familial, like kind of like topics. So there's all these kind of like different, each song has kind of like a different story almost, but the overarching kind of like lens to kind of view this album through is like it's kind of like a positive album. It's kind of like an album that's like it's kind of like telling you to kind of like reach for the light and kind of like avoid the darkness. Don't fall into the rivers of Nile. Look for the good in life, and try to avoid falling victim to the stuff that is so easy to fall victim to as you go through life. So it's not like a true concept album, but it does have like it definitely has like major themes, I would say.
I'm glad you elaborated and really explained that quite well in detail. Because often you feel like, like, oh, I think Rivers of Nile means this. But then to have like, sometimes you're like, I'm way the fuck off, man. I feel stupid as shit. But that's how I took it. And I think that's what drew me in, because where the Owls Know My Name first had that like darker, heavier, nihilistic feel to it. And so
Mhm.
that's what really, I was going through some of those issues during my past, not addiction or anything like that, but other overarching themes. And it really helps just draw the listener in, and it makes your sound that much more relatable. I mean, it's just really, really, as your catalog progresses, it seems like the writing just leaps and bounds progresses.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, man, it's
Glad you like
great. So you're the lead guitarist, right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
one of them, when Andy joined the band, he actually does, he plays lead on a couple of songs on this record as well. So now we kind of have two of us, but I've been, since the beginning, I've been like the lead guitarist, yeah.
okay, well, scrap the self-titled album just because I haven't heard the whole thing. But on the work, I noticed there's a lot of times like the brightness of your tone
Hmm.
blends really well, and it's I'm sorry, your sax player's name again. Uh,
Patrick?
Patrick's tone of the saxophone just melds right into the brightness of your tone, and it's
Mm.
almost like the sax fades into the tone of your guitar. I don't know if
Mm.
that was on purpose, but it catches me every fucking time, and I love it. And I don't know how the fuck you did it, but it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I tend to like, play with a lot of mid-range in my guitar tone, and like I feel like the saxophone is like a mid-rangey instrument as well. Um, and also just like, the effects that we use on guitar are like we use a lot of the same effects on the saxophone, like, delay and reverb and like chorus and stuff, almost like the big 80s guitar solo sound, I'm a big fan of, just like White Snake and Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and all that kind of stuff. That's like what I grew up with, and like I'm a big fan of like that big guitar sound, and a lot of times, yeah, we'll use that kind of sound as a template for guitar, and often and we'll end up taking and putting those same effects on the saxophone. So maybe that has something to do with how they interact so nicely, but also like yeah, the mid range, I like a real like crisp, like clear, guitar sound, with lots of mid range. So maybe that's why they blend together too. I'm not sure. I haven't ever thought about it like that, but it's cool that you noticed it.
Yeah, like I just started playing guitar 3 years ago, and like I just suck at it. But so like I'm learning a lot of things, and like I never realized that like other instruments you could like a sax. I didn't think of putting delay on a sax.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, anything. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, just the no rules kind of thing that I was talking about earlier, where like, when we put weird instruments or whatever on our albums, we just kind of don't really limit ourselves. So yeah, you can do whatever you want, I guess, you can put any effect on any instrument, and maybe it's not conventional, but if it sounds cool, that's like really all that matters, right? If you like it, and it sounds cool, then why not? You should do it.
It works really well on your albums, and with Patrick being like he's not a traditional sounding saxophonist, like he does sound like metal riffs. So
Right.
it really pairs well together, man. And I'm fucking hoping you're coming to Pittsburgh so I can see it again.
Yeah, well, yeah, check the tour dates. I'm not sure. I think we are, but I could be wrong. But yeah, hope to get back there soon. We love playing in Pittsburgh. We got a lot of friends out there, and obviously it's the other city in PA besides Philly. So we always like to get over there and see the other side of the state.
Hell yeah. We'll get the crew together and come out and support you.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Well, hey, I hate to cut this short. I'm running out of time, and I'm sure you got about 82 more interviews to do. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want
man.
to I want to
Thanks.
thank you for coming here and taking time. I know you guys got a lot going on, and it means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.